All right, and now on to the better things in life, the good things in life. For our next segment, starting off with a keynote presentation, we have the super successful leader whose aim in life is to always ensure that everyone around him is super successful too. Let's give it up for Mr. Shankar Iyer, Customer Success India, Infobip. A big round of applause for Mr. Iyer. Mr. Iyer, kindly come on up, kindly come on up. And there's a question we've been wanting to ask, right? Like we mentioned, tech side is being taken care of. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, our presenting partner, the Infobip, so a bigger round of applause is what we want. Shankar sir, super short, super brief, non-tech answer on. What does success mean to Mr. Shankar Iyer?
Well, there's nothing different. Success means the same for everyone. How happy you are with that success is important. So I think success is the same for everyone.
Beautiful answer.
How happy you are with that is important. Yeah.
Beautiful answer, Mr. Iyer. Over to you. And of course, we're going to start off with a fireside chat very soon. We'll be joined with Mr. Subhendu Gupta, the Deputy General Manager, Information System and Digital Initiatives at Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. Mr. Gupta, whenever is it that you join in, the same question awaits you, which is, what does... So whenever is it that you join, please start off with, what does success mean to Mr. Gupta? Over to you, Mr. Iyer. Thank you so much.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for patiently listening to a lot of information I believe so far has been reached out to you. So what am I going to talk about is probably we heard a lot about the end consumer, their experience, the intent behind approaching these customers, the empathy part of it, where and how, and a lot of things. I'm going to step back a bit and talk about brands who are attempting to do that. Would need technology, definitely that's what we heard, but also a lot of consulting and hand-holding to ensure that they take the right decisions, they make the right choices, and take the right approach at the right time. So that's the crux of my session today, and I'll try to run through it as quickly as possible. So what I'm saying here is that how do we unlock the full potential of, let's say, WhatsApp business platform? And why WhatsApp? So today's session, we are revolving around conversational experience, and I'm 100% sure you all will agree with me. In last 24 months, the amount of experience, the conversational experience, which has revolved around chat apps, is been on WhatsApp. Not a single brand who doesn't want to be on that platform. And for a simple reason that India being the largest market for WhatsApp with about 450 million plus consumers, it makes absolutely business sense to be there and serve your customer. And what if you're not there is the challenge. So if you're there, then there are different challenges, which I'm going to touch upon in my next slides. So the first step is to go there and be there on that platform. So before I dive into the nuances of how do you build this entire platform and use the full potential of WhatsApp, just look at some of the digital transformations. So in 2022, we are expecting that social media matters is what we saw, and it really matters because this is the kind of presence you have. But the last section out there is there 100 billion message exchanges on WhatsApp. And I don't have exact numbers for India, but I'm 100% sure we all can guess that it's going to be a large portion of that in India, right? So that means you have a consumer spending that much time on the screen on WhatsApp, and that space is today engaged with social interactions and personal interactions, and that's where business communications want to enter. And if you are able to take a genuine space, not a spamming space as we have seen in some other channels, but a very genuine space where if you can bring all those keywords of intent, empathy, problem-solving attitude, I think that's a great space to be in, and we can really create a great customer experience. So why do I say WhatsApp is also because there are some stats backing it. Now, probably if you rewind back 8-10 years, a smartphone means a lot of apps in it, right? I mean, you want to explore all of those things because you're using traditional methods of approaching customers, and all of a sudden you found that there is an app where you can click and you can find your statement. You probably clicked on some of the icons to see your status and so on and so forth. But now, I think the ecosystem inside your smartphone has got divided into two parts, right? One is about need and one is about want. And exactly where your apps are also getting segregated. So you don't want, probably your ecosystem is going to shrink. Now, I mean, it did expand to an extent, but I think now it will again shrink back to those apps where you probably would need them and those wants would stay back. And that's where I think a lot of my digital heads and those friends in the industry are now trying to see how do I increase the adoption of these apps, right? Because I have my app launched, and in the first 10 days, I have hit my targets of downloads, but then the next 6 months, I'm struggling to see how much adoption I get on that app. So this is a problem as far as the app is concerned. And let's focus on email, right? I think I believe the most cluttered space of communication for a consumer today. I mean, it's so difficult. I mean, I believe if some of you have traveled, you would have preferred your airline ticket on a WhatsApp than an email for sure. I mean, because by the time the ticket would have come and then you would have gone to your inbox and checked, you would have already got some other 25 emails which are not required for. So it's a clutter there, right? And that was a similar case probably, again, a decade back or more than that, when phone calls used to be like, any time of the day and selling anything on that just because we didn't have any filter on it. So these are some cluttered space which the customers don't want to be there, especially for important information. And then, so where does this take us? It takes us to a place where the customers are already there. That's what we saw, that it's WhatsApp probably is the most used app out of the other apps. One of the stats tells me that after 450 or 470 million, that number keeps a little dynamic there. The second best app is around 140 or 160 million. So you can imagine the gap between the utilization of an app on a phone. And the second best is the largest e-commerce player in the country, and no guesses for that. So this is the difference as far as the app is concerned, and that is where the customers would love all those need-based apps which you're looking at. I mean, if I have to spell something, your riding app or probably your banking app, any other important app, you want that app communication to be in that WhatsApp space now, because again, that becomes more convenient, that becomes more easy for the consumer, and it is more interactive because your apps are not that interactive. So moving ahead, so what I'm trying to say is that how do you build that successful formula, right? And you know that WhatsApp is the best channel, but then you need to build a conversational experience around it. And that's where I think Infobip or any of my industry partners, friends, would like to help brands build an excellent framework around WhatsApp, a genuine framework. I keep stressing on that word again and again is because that's where when you started communicating, ideally WhatsApp didn't have promotions earlier. It's only for the reason that it should not get spammed and consumers should get a great experience. So if you build a genuine framework, which needs two things in that. One is you identify a use case which is really needed by the customer. That's very important. Your WhatsApp journey should start from a most critical use case of your customer. And second is you have an excellent professional services partner who can identify the experience over it. Because what happens is, like for example, I know a retail company who built a WhatsApp journey for their customers for support. And once you landed on that chat, you realize that there were some 25 SKUs through which you need to navigate and identify your product before you could raise a complaint. You've actually killed the experience right at the first step. So you got the WhatsApp, you got the journey, the use case created, which was support, which is very important for the retail product. But then the experience went out of the window. So that's very important. So two things is a complete solution for the use case and a very tight wrap of a professional services or a consultancy around that will help you build that kind of a framework. So let's deep dive into the framework a little bit. So where do you start, right? So if I have to put it in 3 words, it's like, okay, acquisition, retention, and growth. But then you further divide it, then you say, how do you create awareness? How do you create consideration? So you can bring all of them under this platform, which is WhatsApp, and then bring a conversational experience around it. Now, when I say conversational experience, I'm not trying to say you build a top-class AI and all those things which we heard, and I understand there are still loopholes in that. You can just simply, you can build a human touch experience, conversational experience around it. You can simply put a basic bot experience around it. It doesn't matter. What matters is your customers are ready there. And if you are able to have a genuine use case around that, it doesn't matter if the customer is interacting with a bot or an agent till the time you're able to achieve the purpose. So you have a customer engagement use case. Your sales conversions have also started coming in. So your complete e-commerce product catalog can build into a WhatsApp, which helps you do that. And I'm sure there are some other sessions which will probably touch upon that through our industry friends. And then we also have customer service use case, which was one of the early adopters. So the customer service came first on WhatsApp saying, okay, you know what, I don't want a long queue of calls on my call center, resource challenge, and pandemic definitely created that scenario where you didn't have people to attend to those calls. And that's where I think customer service came first on WhatsApp and said, you know what, we can respond through bots and at least take those complaints and move on from there. Moving ahead, so while we spoke about use case, we would also like to deep dive into the entire journey, right? So right from discovery to delight is what we call it in our organization. So how do you take that experience right from the discovery? So we heard a gentleman talking about saying a paperless hospital, and I think this is something we also personally feel in healthcare. It's a great need to have. So how does a prospect discover a hospital or a specialist or a doctor, over internet, and is able to seamlessly come over a WhatsApp to inquire about a profile, appointment, consultation requirements, and is able to navigate through that to a point where he's able to walk out of that hospital after all the experience on only carrying a computer in the hand or a phone in the hand which has all the documentations in the phone, and he's ready to take that experience and share it with others. So I think that's the idea. So you start from awareness, and so if you have those goals in place, there are use cases which are already prominent, available in the market, and there are also use cases which are explored on a daily basis, and then you have a solution stack which supports the entire journey. Just a wrap around the entire thing. So we're talking about engagement. So you have, I'm sure all the brands have created their, the people platform or the CRMs today. I think the most of the digital heads are brainstorming is how do I connect that or integrate that with a conversational platform so that I use or leverage my data to the maximum best possible and get the results out of it, which is something is available. And then you talk about bots and agents, or probably the human touch versus bots, both coming together. That integration is something which will take you to the next step. So I stressed upon consultancy here specifically. That's an experience for last probably 4 or 5 years we have seen. Every brand, as I said, we want a bot. But then the idea is that what are you addressing and how do you address that? And what are the best industry practices you would try to get in? So that's, I think, if I have to refer to some of the food delivery, I think those are the best probably bot-based experiences you will get. So you go into that chat and you don't actually start explaining yourself. The bot has already understood your profile and understood your preferences, and of course the AI has played that role. But I think it is that continuous information which is churned by interacting with the customers on these kind of platforms has enabled those food delivery companies to reach to that point. So that's important. And then how does that happen actually? So you probably get into the discover. So when I talk to our customers, a lot of times they have a great bot and they have a WhatsApp platform, but they don't have customers on that interacting with them. And that is one thing where probably I always see that a digital head versus a marketing head's discussion, and the ROI and the investment story starts there. So because you need to create a great entry point for your customer to come on a WhatsApp. How many customers would really know that a brand is available on WhatsApp? Just not available, but is able to address to his or her queries. So I think this is where a CX discovery or a customer experience discovery, we focus on something like customer experience discovery. So how many of your customers today are able to identify you on a WhatsApp platform and are confident to interact with you. If you're able to break that code, I think you will be able to build an excellent experience around that. And then follows the design and launch and uplift, which is part of the lifecycle management. So there are many things, but I just want to stick to a couple of points. And tight integration, which is very important because every organization has built their own customer base, and you need a tight integration to ensure that you leverage that, right? That's very important. It doesn't matter who offers you what kind of a solution. At the end of the day, how you leverage your own data matters a lot. And then, obviously, you need the industry knowledge and the expertise or the consulting, which I spoke about, professional services, which will definitely help you do that. I'll just quickly run through this. So these are some of the brands which we work across the globe. These are some of the integrations which we work very closely, because I think this makes the case more easier for the brands, right? Because these are the players who are integrating those data for all conversational partners. Finally, before I move to my last two slides, so the growth of messaging is going to accelerate like anything. You may have an AI, you might not have an AI. AI is more towards the brands to see how do they leverage it. But if you look at the consumer world, they have moved on to messaging to a great extent, right? Lot of influential businesses, referential businesses are already picking up on that platform. There is no AI in that, absolutely. It is purely the networking effect, which a lot of media platforms had used. Now that media platform, or we call that as hyper-personalization, has happened over WhatsApp. So the brands need to just figure out a way how you can enter that space, right? And that's where these data would be really helpful. So smartphone usage has obviously gone up, so that will be one big play, and WhatsApp is the major app user. So that is the area, that's the strategy. You will have at least one messaging app, right? So if you look at India market specifically, we are at about, 800 million smartphones, and we still have about 35% of the rural market using 2G phones yet. So the market is still huge for smartphones to penetrate, and the first app which you get on a smartphone is going to be a WhatsApp today, right? So definitely a moment a customer is on WhatsApp means you have a customer there. You have a prospect there to start engaging. You don't need that customer to download your app. You don't need that customer to visit your website, but you have a customer who is on WhatsApp. That means you have a prospect which is available for you to engage. And most importantly, the mistakes which we learned is a lot of people communicated to their customers, but they did not responded back when the customers came back. That's where probably the CX discovery is very important. That what is the kind of customer behavior will you expect when you send your first message over a WhatsApp to the customer? Will he block you? Will he send a response back to you? And that's where you need to start driving a journey. Just a quick glimpse. So we manage about 24 billion plus monthly interactions around this space too. So to understand what's happening across 190 countries, and trust me, it's very different in every country and every region where the behaviors are so different from customers. On that note, I'll close my presentation and like to invite Mr. Subhendu on the stage. So probably next 12 minutes, 15 minutes, I would like to probably ask some questions to Mr. Subhendu, please, on the stage, so that we can touch upon some of these points. So. So I think, Mr. Subhendu, thank you so much for your time and patiently waiting for this. I think we had a little delay here. So before we deep dive into conversation experience for you, I just want to ask you a very basic question of, you're from energy sector, very regulated, right? Utilities are something which is given kind of a thing, right? And pre-pandemic, we have seen in your sector, at least I know that, including all of us, we were very physical in nature as far as our behaviors were concerned. So we were not digital in the utility sector. We thought that was fine, right? And I think pandemic changed it. So how did you find this 24 months? How did that experience change? How did you manage your customer behaviors, those overnight requests changing from more physical to a semi-digital or a digital nature?
So good afternoon, everybody. I think it's almost 12. Yeah. So, as you know, we are in a sector which is, I would like to divide business into two kinds of products or services. One where people will indulge to, there is or like if you go to a restaurant to eat a food or something like that. One, given a choice, you would not like to have that. Suppose you are being given a solution by which your transportation problems are solved. So essentially, you would not like to drive a vehicle. A very few might be like to drive a vehicle for sheer indulgence or experience. Similarly, if your food can be just cooked and delivered to you, you would not like to cook and thereby not like to have an LPG cylinder. So essentially, we are into such kind of thing where, given a choice, a customer would not like to have this, problems or these woes in life. But life is not that kind, and you have to essentially depend on energy, whether it is the energy for for yourself as a food, or energy for your vehicle to transport, or energy for any industries where all the things which you are using in your life getting manufactured. So by compulsion, you are using this. So even the pandemic, when this pandemic, coming back to your question, when the pandemic came, though you were able to compromise on some of those indulgences, which you were earlier used to or used to get indulged, but you just couldn't rule this out. You had to eat your food. You have to go out at some time to get your medicines to essentials. Yes, not of course. There were a lot of work from home and all. So like we were in a kind of an industry where we were, for us, the pandemic was not where things came to standstill. We were constantly, delivering to the customer. And there was almost 70 or 80%, we saw a meteoric rise in the LPG demanded, because people were more at home, they were cooking more. People were also hoarding cylinders and suppose going dry. So our people, against all the adversities, people and the delivery channel, they work on overdrive and delivered. And during this, now essentially anything that you take, whether it's a petrol pump or a LPG, it involves two things. It involves a transaction. So that involves an ordering, a transactions, and a payment. You have to do that. We have very less credit because it's most of cash and carry business and all. So again, because of the nature of the pandemic, where you need to be contactless, so we had to resort to overnight. We have to develop capabilities where people could make all kinds of payments, whether it is a credit card, debit card, whether it is an UPI payment, whether it is a net banking payment. So those infrastructure need to be quickly. So we had to enable our app in a very short period of time with all these capabilities, where a customer can place the order, track the order, ensure that it is delivered. So all those capabilities were developed. So I think two things came very handy. One is this was the emerging need of the campaign, and which we were able to bridge through the technology.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the reason I asked it that question was, when we looked at now a lot of digital initiatives, a lot of them were were at the back burner before pandemic. And I think one example which you now stated is all of a sudden it started becoming the priority. And I'm sure you've been so many years with HPCL, you would have been pushing that agenda for so long. And pandemic probably helped a lot of us here saying that no, now we need it. There is no other way to go about it. Continuing on that, I was just talking about it. Like if you look at the Indian consumers, the internet's had penetrated across the country, and then you have smartphones. And I was talking about almost 60-70% of the smartphone users have WhatsApp. How, and if you look at that trend is growing, how energy sector as a whole, you see that you are able to leverage that platform to communicate with your customer?
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, just to give you to get a feel of that question, I'll give you some numbers. So if you look at, we are doing close to 3.5 crore LPG transactions. Now we are only 25% of the entire market today as far as oil industry is concerned. So that will give you some idea of the kind of volume of transactions that we are doing. So LPG transactions, we are able to the customer is enrolled with us. So we know the coordinates of the customer. We have their numbers. So we have along 90 million plus customers today registered with us. When we go to the retail, there is no mandatory, it is not mandatory for a retail customer to enroll themselves, though we have now an app through which we are giving a lot of benefit in terms of service loyalty points. So we want customers to come on those apps so that we will be able to track that customers and we'll be able to engage with them. So that is another thing. So put together, we have around 40 to 50 crore transactions a year. So it happens recurringly. People come. So that is the power of these consumers, you know. They, whether they like it or not, but they will come 6 times to me in a year to take an LPG cylinder. If you have a vehicle, you will come twice or thrice in a month. So that is a huge power to actually engage with the customers and talk to them. Now, primarily, the focus of the oil marketing companies all these years have been market expansion. The product by itself sells, set up more petrol pumps, set up more gas agencies, your market share goes up. But I think with private players coming in and all, the market is pretty saturated. And today, customer has a choice. Now, today, still, I will say, to you, a HPC logo or an IOC logo or a Bharat Petroleum logo signifies nothing more than that there is a petrol pump which exists there and I can fuel at time. You won't. But when these logos are together, would you make a choice to come into this or this? I think the time is coming. And especially when we are moving towards businesses like EVs and all, where the nuances are totally different. Like EV there is a time you will have to spend some 20 minutes or good 25 minutes at the pump. So you would like that how conveniently or how productively I can spend this 25 minutes at the outlet. So the oil companies or the EV service provider has to think, how can I make that stay more comfortable? So these are the issues which are emerging out of that. So it is very important for you to, now how do you engage with the customers? Now how do you engage with the customers when the customers are in crores, I would say, 20 crore, 30 crore customers. So only thing that you can engage is that, I'm just coming where WhatsApp become very relevant, is you will be able to segment, you will be able to look at various segments and will be able to customize your content, customize. I think WhatsApp, so one of the prime reason, if I have to list down 3 or 4 primary reason where WhatsApp came as a big rescue or a big help to our kind of industry. One is the outreach. WhatsApp has already built up an outreach, which is covering, you have seen those numbers, almost 50 crore plus people are using WhatsApp today. So WhatsApp has built up, so WhatsApp is actually perceived as a very personal space for any person, individual. So when a brand goes and communicates on that particular space, customer doesn't looks like, doesn't take it like a, very mechanical. It appeals. I mean, that is a subtle perception level. You will feel that, yes, somebody has cared to come to my inbox in a WhatsApp and send me this message or inform me this. So that is a perception. Secondly, today we have customers across all segments. So mostly they don't speak English. India being, so we have got customers all nook and corner of the country. So, and from rural to all strata. So WhatsApp give us a chatbots or give us a language capability. Today almost 13 languages are there. So we can make our pitch more important. Now then WhatsApp, if you have been working with the WhatsApp, earlier you in a chatbot or something, you need to type out a lot of things, which actually made it detrimental for people who are not so conversant with that. So today with the touch buttons and where you can put very friendly icons for people to explore, that is another, experience is getting better. And fourth is the NLP capabilities and AIs, which is actually, I can know which are the 3 most important queries. So I can put it that as a 1, 2, 3. And I can go. So this kind of, suppose in a place of Northeast, these are a 1, 2, 3, and by South 4, 5, 6, I would accordingly customize the interface to the customer. I think these things are actually helping us.
Absolutely,
Thank
sir.
you.
I think what you're touching upon is that we need not complicate it too much as far as this conversational experience is concerned. Regardless, might be WhatsApp, might be your homegrown chat app, whatever. It need not complicate it too much because I think the consumers are smart enough to use that. What you just need is probably if you're genuine, a brand and if you know your consumers are associated with you, you just have to be there in that space, ensuring what they need at what time, right? And I think the example of language is exactly what you said, or the example of typing, right? You don't want the consumers to then go into a dilemma of, because they have already used that app to type and they know what to do that, right? So it's so easy, if you write to HPCL and ask something. So thank you so much for highlighting that. But I think I have to ask you this question. It's not, because I touched upon the point of saying, how do the brands build this kind of a framework? And you have done that. So so the conversational experience around WhatsApp. So we know that, okay, it's a good channel and you need to build a bot or a overall, the framework of building that experience on the chat app. Tell us about some of your learnings and insights around that. Like,
Primarily, when we look at WhatsApp, actually, we tried to build I told you, when we started becoming customer-centric, and so to become customer-centric for such a large audience of customer, you need to build up a stack. So what fundamentally we done, we have we had a CRM in place. So then we took a marketing automation platform. If you are aware of, it actually helps you. We have various verticals, so it helps you actually bring all your data together, churn it, and have a single view of a customer. And then you will be able to segment it with the attributes you want to put, and then you will be able to configure some campaigns, and you can orchestrate it. Then you can track those campaigns, how the people are responding on your app and all. So that is the full marketing automation stack. Then there is an omni-channel, with WhatsApp being today the only channel. Though we talk about other channels, but SMS and email are outdated, and it is more looked at as a spam in any kind of people don't look at. So WhatsApp, though there are other platforms emerging, but nowhere no platform is nearer to WhatsApp, what I think today. So whenever we talk about going to a better channel, the WhatsApp is what's in the mind. So actually, build up an omni-channel chatbot kind of a thing. And so with this whole stack, you will be able to track the transaction, track the payment, do the segmentation, engage with the customers. Now, when we talk about engagements, there are two primary. One is that a large part, like for a LPG business, a large part of the business is the service part. Whether he is able to change his address, change his telephone number, moving in transfer, able to book the cylinder, track the cylinder, get the cylinder at the home. Suppose he is not there, so his wife is there. Can he make a payment and OTP can be given to the wife, which he shares, and the delivery can be confirmed? A lot of things are being done on this part. So to that, take care of that service, and then there are a lot of queries. Suppose I am setting up an industry, I want to know, I have a road project, where do I get the bitumen of the road project from? Where do I get a naphtha or a solvent? We sell a lot of specialty. So the query and service part can be, if we are exposing on a WhatsApp, so that we are configuring as a chatbot. The other larger thing is that now, the ATL and BTL activities are, we had a huge budget, good budget for that. But those are no more effective. You just cannot put a blind hoarding and expect everybody to see. And we have such a diverse segment, right from a car with a BMW car or a high-end car to a person riding a scooty. So one communication will not fit all, will not make. Any campaigns that you do is not going to be fit. So you need to actually customize your campaigns and communications today. So then the ATL, BTL, what comes is the TTL, what they are calling it today is through the line, which is the thing but the digital campaign, which happens on WhatsApp through a push notification. So we have a large budget, we have the entire, and being a government company, there is a sort of a restriction on us to go overboard with TV advertisement or a newspaper advertisement. So we thought the best way to reach his customers is to the WhatsApp inbox and the way the customer is. So if I know he's a high-end car owner, I would rather send something content which is appeals to him. But a high-end car owner, if his driver is the person who is deciding where to fuel, I would like to customize it and send it to him accordingly, which will be a value to him. Yeah. So this kind of, I think these two flexibilities are the big way we are looking forward. I do not know, it's still only a couple of years back when we have embarked on this journey, but we are very bullish on this and we are very hopeful that this is going to strike good with our customers. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. I think I can understand that there is a lot of effort behind, while you know that the customers would accept you on that channel. The idea was to segment it, idea was to understand the customer better before you actually reach out to them. Though probably, as you rightly mentioned, the use cases were just about procuring and payments. But still, you had to look into those customer data and understand that is it really a viable option for you to reach out to them on WhatsApp. So I think we have run out of time, so I'm going to ask you one last question here. And the reason, because you have such a large database to cater, right? And digital transformation is given. Everyone has to go through it now. How do you see in next 3 years? So while we know LPG was the low-hanging fruit, it was easy, do you see a similar kind of thing happening, and you touched upon it a little bit, in your retail business as well, right? How do you see that, probably 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line?
Yeah. So today, like I told, for our kind of a business, we also have an app called HP Pay, which we are again, building it as a super app. Super app in the terms not only all our line of business, but also we are entering into the adjacent white spaces, like for a vehicle owner, if there is an insurance is something close to him, or a tire. But so today a digital platform gives you to tie up with these companies which can ride on your customer base and give a value proposition. So right now our focus will be, say, kitchen or related or a vehicle related space where. So all those things will be coming onto our app, and there will be a good value proposition in terms of loyalty or offerings and all that also. Now, whenever you are having an app of this kind where, it is not always like somebody told me, how many apps would you like to have? Or it is sometimes very tedious for you to go inside, inconvenient, find a button and go to your intended thing. So what we are trying to do, the critical functions of the app, which are most used, we are trying to extend it on WhatsApp through a chatbot. So what we will be able to, suppose you want to book a petrol refuel and make a payment. So you will be able to do it from WhatsApp. It will go to the app, it will process it, give you the transaction, give you the loyalty balance. It will tell you so much of money is there in the wallet. If you want to add, you should be able to add through WhatsApp. It will expose the PG payment gateway, or say WhatsApp payment or Paytm payment, anything. So what we are doing, we are my app is available to you in a larger way on the WhatsApp also. So that is one of the use cases which is beyond chatbot. So that is one thing which we find we want to promote, that our app is as convenient as using. So that I am trying to ride on the convenience factor of the WhatsApp. Secondly, as I told, WhatsApp will give you, like I can run campaigns. For us, the location is very important. The geolocation and the time is very important. So today there are a lot of variables, like price changes happens every day. So I can just give an off-the-cuff example. If I know this customer is coming to this petrol pump twice or around a weekend to get his refuel, and the prices have dropped, I can send him a value-added information. So today a lot of information can be pushed to customers, which can actually save his time, money, or things like that. So we are looking at these things. And as I told you, the EVs and all, EVs, payments, these things are actually, today customer wants it all. You cannot say, I will only have it this and not have this all. They want everything. They said, I should have the freedom of using this also, this also, this also. Does the brand allows me to do that? I think WhatsApp give us that kind
Absolutely,
of.
sir. So just to summarize, I think there were a lot of brands, and if you all rewind some years back, there were a lot of brands who had to rely on different industries and brands to promote their activities. If I remember, your credit card basically enabled you to go to a particular petrol pump, right? Because that credit card would only give you that additional points and whatever those loyalty was. Probably today, an independent brand like you can build that same with your own brand. You don't have to associate with a banking company to do that for you. I think that's where these kind of platforms have given you that, right? So thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate your thoughts on this. I don't know if we have time for, if there are any questions we can take, or I think we can close. Right? Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.